Hello, thank you for joining us. It's Luke here from Nowhere again. Fortunate enough to be able to continue our interview with the CTO series. Uh, Today, I have with me Leonid Belkind from StackPulse, who are one of our new partners in the cutting edge area of SRE platforms and automation. Um, I will let Leonard do most of the explanation on that. But I think really we want to start with just can you give us an overview introduction, Leonard, on yourself and the company, and how did StackPulse come to be, really?
Um, sure, certainly, Luke. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. StackPulse, we are a young vendor. We are soon to open our platform for a wide general availability. The sort of like inspiration for what we are doing at StackPulse came as a part of our own journey. Both myself as well as my partners, and actually most of our core or founding team, we all come from a decade, maybe decade and a half of building high-end enterprise IT security products, both by working for large industry-leading vendors, as well as my previous company, the one I co-founded with pretty much the same set of partners, was in this very field. And together with the industry in the last decade, we underwent this transformation where we used to deliver enterprise-grade software, and we are now moving to delivering enterprise-grade software services, which means that suddenly we are not only responsible for delivering a working product that solves problems for somebody, but we are actually responsible for running a reliable, scalable service for some other company that really depends on this service being online. In our transition from just building products to building services, we realized that being able to operationalize your product, now service, is actually none less important than providing rich functionality that helps your users. As a matter of fact, sometimes users would prefer having something more reliable and more scalable rather than more, sort of having cutting edge functions. The thing is that with a modern service economy, you have to have both. You have to be very agile and very flexible and be able to roll out business desired outcomes into production very quickly. And actually, while doing all that, nobody would ever expect you to compromise on the sort of like reliability of your production. Experiencing these firsthand, learning from the trailblazers in the software as a service industry, the likes of Google's, Netflix's, Facebook's, etc., and then trying to apply these into real life companies with real life constraints. That actually is what StackPulse is all about in terms of inspiration.
Okay, excellent. So, and this fits really well with the concept of site reliability engineering and the role SRE. So who's the day-to-day user of StackPulse? Is it just SREs, or is it broader than that within an organization?
So when the SRE discipline, or some companies call it production engineer, and the differences are very slight, when it was introduced, the world was still operating in a relatively siloed mode, which means that the people who would engineer and build the product would not be the same people who would actually operate the product and support it. And the site reliability engineering discipline was invented to start bringing these two worlds together. Right? The most famous phrase, I think, was coined back in the days by the Amazon CTO: you build it, you run it. And this is not just a marketing slogan, right? The idea of abolishing the silos and putting the responsibility for operations on the same people that are delivering the functionality is actually bringing this new way of looking at operational problems. Let me give you an example to maybe bring this down to earth a bit. So traditionally, let's imagine that you would be responsible for developing some sort of complex technological software solution, and I would be your partner in the operations department responsible for production, rollouts, monitoring, rolling back, God forbid, if something bad happened, et cetera, et cetera. My focus, since I would not have much control over how the product looks, would be purely operational, methodological, etc., right? Which is when something bad happens, what process do I do in order to find the right individuals that would help me hopefully put things back on track? And this thing doesn't only introduce a lot of inefficiencies, it also creates a lot of organizational tension, right? So originally, site reliability engineering was invented under a slogan of this is the way of software engineers to think about operational problems, which is different than the way of traditional operational people thinking about operational problems. Within time, though, the whole sort of like dissolvement of silos in the organization reached a new phase where the responsibility for the site reliability engineer is now outside of just one team, right? So what we see today more and more, and that is the way we are building the product, is that the responsibility for operational environment, its reliability, is not only in a single team, but actually gets distributed, or the way many people call it, democratized to the teams that own each and every specific functionality. So our users are not only SRE teams, are not only DevOps teams, but actually in many organizations, these are also traditional software engineering teams that own the piece of the operational puzzle.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. So just to dig in a little bit deeper then, things have been going wrong for quite a while when it comes to software and IT, unfortunately, things that we can't avoid. As such, lots of things, monitoring, alerting, and the sort of thing that, can save lots of time, but can also wake people up in the middle of the night without a lot of context. Where does this fit into that sort of stack of existing tooling, which has crept up around this problem, I guess?
I think you've touched, with that example you brought about waking somebody up in the middle of the night, I think you've touched the essence of the problem. You see, if we look at the transformation the software versus IT relationship has undergone in the past decade, we will see that sort of like methodically, step after step, functions and roles that were very much dependent on human, manual, repetitive labor were replaced by automation. This is what happened to testing, right, of software deliverables, where the world is moving from manual testing to automated testing. Same happened to integration, delivery, monitoring, for example. Consider the modern monitoring systems versus the more traditional network operational center, human shift-centric related monitoring approach, right? Now, let's continue this evolution one step ahead. So your monitoring, which is hopefully very advanced, very modern, takes into consideration lots of infrastructural, user experience, application, etc., metrics, is producing an alert. The more complex your system is, the more layered it is in terms of what platform infrastructure it relies on, the more possibility for various alerts with various level of confidence for your monitoring system exists. The only thing that is out there today for companies that are battling with these alerts are paging systems. Very important, right? When high severity alerts comes, it can be directed to the attention of a relevant person. There should be an escalation policy. If that person happens not to be available, then we will direct it to the attention of the next in line, etc., etc. So paging is sort of one solution. Still, it is very centered around the involvement of human element. So that doesn't solve the problem with somebody waking you up in the middle of the night. It kind of helps wake up the relevant person and hopefully do this as efficient as we can. That is pretty much it, right? The next thing that exists for this, let's call it for a moment, post-alert world is communication system. Slack is the de facto standard for operational teams around the world, with Microsoft Teams being like the close second for companies that are centric on Microsoft technologies, providing pretty much the same value proposition, right? Remote medium for communications about an ongoing incident, bringing in additional subject matter experts, driving issues to resolution. Again, very, very human-centric. These tools, while being very important tools, they don't really create a qualitative difference in organizations' ability to support their software services. Even more than that, they are human-centric, which means that when I come to measure the efficiency of how efficient your operations department are, Luke, today, how is your efficiency today versus, let's say, 1 quarter ago, 2 quarters ago, etc. All this, unfortunately, in many, many companies around the world is not very much data-driven. What we are offering in StackPulse is to extend that evolution that I mentioned, that replaced manual testing with automated testing, manual monitoring with automated monitoring, incident response with automated incident response. Now, what does automated incident response mean, right? I know that there is this great vision, maybe even a dream of what we would call a self-healing system, right? A software system that would be so smart and so efficient that whenever something bad happens, it would automatically rectify it. That is a tremendous vision. And I think that we would like the world to start transitioning towards self-healing systems. But incident response automation isn't black and white. Either you do everything manually or you do everything automatically. Every human responder that gets an alert today undergoes certain chain of events. First, those persons would hydrate or enrich the events, right? Collect additional details that would help them understand what is the problem about. Then they would probably try to triage the source of the problem and hopefully detect a root cause. After analyzing that, or sometimes if the root cause is not detected, you can still remediate it without understanding the undergoing person, right? You would remediate the problem. So there are steps in this process. In each and every one of these steps, we can introduce dedicated automation. For example, let's take the very simple, very mundane, but still extremely impactful when it comes to organizations, step of hydrating events. If I would pick the most experienced engineer now in any organization, and I would ask that person, sir or madam, if at the middle of the night, an alert pops up on your mobile phone and it says that your database is let's say, non-responsive, can you tell me what are the next investigative steps you would take in order to either identify the source of the problem or maybe rule out certain suspicions? As you can imagine, that person would be able to tell me what these steps are ahead of time, right? And again, of course, it will not be the case just for the database. It would be the case for many typical issues. What we do at StackPulse, we try to take this knowledge that today, unfortunately, in most of the organizations is not very well documented, right? There are more organized organizations that try to document this knowledge in runbooks, wiki pages, dedicated documents. We try to turn it into yet another automated code. Why? Because if you know ahead of time, ahead of the incident that happens, what would be your steps to triage it, find the root cause analysis, how you would remediate it, there is absolutely no reason for us to wait for that critical time when it happens in order for you to express that. So this is the underlying thesis of why we believe that operationalization should be codified, should be automated, just as any other point in the software delivery chain.
Fantastic. Incident response as code. There we have it, everybody.
Big time.
Leonid, thank you very much for joining me. We're really excited about StackPulse and what we're going to see from you guys. Can you give us any hints, indications of when we're going to see more from StackPulse or anything from you guys at any events coming up or anything?
Actually, we are becoming more and more active in this arena. Being a software as a service vendor, we are rolling out new functionality around automation, orchestration, management for incident, etc., with every passing day. So I would really advise you guys to stay tuned. We are extremely happy to partner with you and you, Luke, because we believe in this market. We believe in the fact that when bringing new paradigms, you need to have partners that are very knowledgeable, that have very strong understanding of the domain of the problem. So I think we are all really excited with the potential that there is to uncover in this field.
Excellent. Same here. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Please do go and check out StackPulse and look forward to seeing you next time, I guess. Thanks, Leonid.
Thank you very much. Looking forward.